I put in the prompt in ChatGPT to rebook the relaunch of WCW, and this is what they came up with. I had gone through about half of this already, and it was that in depth that I decided to break this down into two separate videos, and now we are getting into the meat and potatoes of it, where the rise of Scott Steiner still happens, as Scotty Steiner believes WCW needs dominance, and he resents the fact that Hogan and Flair are holding the spotlight. He is the angry future of WCW and wins the title at Bash at the Beach. I've also gone. I've also realized that ChatGPT is not the biggest fan of Russo's booking, taking subtle shots at Vince Russo. This is ChatGPT, I swear, not me. Just putting out the disclaimer. The reason why ChatGPT is putting out these disclaimers and putting out the not Russo nonsense is because I do agree, and ChatGPT does too, that Vince Russo's philosophy of booking did not fit WCW. We needed to reset and Scotty becomes the dominant force within WCW, winning the title many months ahead of when he actually did in November of 2000. In um in June, sorry, in July. Let me rephrase that. In July of 2000, instead of November. I mixed up when Bash at the Beach was. Um, I mixed up when Bash at the Beach was, actually thinking it was in June, not in July, but it actually does make. Well, that is the reason why I mixed it up, is because I thought Great American Bash, the pay per view about America, would have been lined up with Independence Day, not the month before, but it is what it is. Goldberg still returns at Great American Bash in June, and he returns as a babyface, not as a heel, and instead of immediately chasing the title, he questions WCW's stature. Has WCW become too soft? This lets Goldberg refresh his character, and is destroying both veterans and newcomers. A meeting with Scotty Steiner becomes inevitable. This puts Goldberg in the gray area. It puts Goldberg in the gray, where is Goldberg the one that is going to fight with the veterans, or is he going to fight with the newcomers? Booker's ascension becomes a long-term play because Booker has the charisma. He has the legitimacy, the credibility with fans, the crossover potential, and the main event presence. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Booker T had been with WCW for 7 or 8 years at that moment in time, starting in the 91 to 92 range with his brother, and building his credibility within WCW. He went from being the unknown to being a borderline main eventer, with the people wanting to see him break through. I agree, and this is the case for both Book and Scotty Steiner, that the company should have fully committed months earlier. After falling short against one of the elite veterans, Sting pulls Booker aside and says, "You already belong here. Stop asking permission." This also is not just. This part is not just about reviving WCW, and its identity. It is also in turn giving Nitro structure. The cruiserweights matter again, fixating on athletic showcases with the cruiserweight division, international styles, rankings, spotlight packages on the new cruiserweights, like Shane Helms, like Jamie Noble, Evan Courageous, Shannon Moore, and reviving the idea of bringing back international superstars, shifting away, I would even say, from the people that have been within the division for ages at that moment in time, which would have been a reason to bring guys like Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman up the card and into the mid card, which I think is something that would have needed to be done when folks like Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner and Booker T moved out of the mid card and into the main event. But predictability and structure helps the audience reconnect. If they're a fan of the cruiserweights, if they're a fan of the tag teams, if they're a fan of the main eventers, then they'll get to know hour 1 is this, hour 2 is that, hour 3 is this. I don't know that I would keep Nitro 3 hours, but I think that is something that I would go over with WCW executives or Turner executives to see financially what makes sense. If it makes sense to keep WCW 3 hours financially, then we do it. And that's where the structure comes in. That's where structuring the show comes in. If it makes more sense to cut the show down financially and physically, then that's where the show comes in. And the one aspect of this is Thunder becomes developmental. It gives people a reason to watch Thunder because they can test the new acts, build winning streaks, rehab characters. There's plenty of people that needed rehab. Buff Bagwell, Alex Wright, a lot of the mid card needed rehab. Some of the main eventers needed rehab, even Flair, Bam Bam, Goldberg, I'm trying to think off the cuff, but there's a lot of people that needed to be rehabbed. Not essential viewing, but if you're interested in what you see in the structure and what you grasp after weeks of consistency in the structure, then you'll know this is what Thunder's for. The one thing I would say is if we did cut an hour off of Nitro, then one of the hours from like maybe hour 2 of Nitro would move to Thunder, and then the upper mid carders would become the featured stars on Thunder, and not on Nitro. And then they would, when they move up, and that would it would give a reason for you to watch it, because then, oh, Jeff Jarrett's not interacting with Hulk Hogan anymore. He's not interacting with Sting anymore. He's not interacting with these people anymore. Oh, Sting's appearing on Thunder. It gives you a reason to watch Thunder. Spacing out the appearance or the debuts of the Natural Born Thrillers late in the summer of 2000, I would say between the late summer of 2000, so like July, August, into September, to where all of them are debuted by Fall Brawl, that I think that is the way to go, because you don't want to debut them all at once. You want to space out the debuts and allow fans the opportunity to get to know who these people are, as opposed to debuting them all at once and having people get used to them that way, with them being on television. Take it slow, pace it out. The turning point, the apex of this story is Fall Brawl 2000, tradition versus the future. I think what ChatGPT is trying to get out there is it matters more not to force feed the audience and say this is who the baby faces are, these are who the heels are now. Let the audience choose their side. Let the audience pick who they want to cheer for, who they want to boo for, or who they want to boo. Team tradition would be Sting, DDP, Flair, and Goldberg. I know I mentioned earlier that Goldberg would be in the gray. That would be a part of the build into Fall Brawl. Who is on Goldberg? Whose side is Goldberg on? And Goldberg finally chooses the tradition. When the tradition chooses Mike Awesome. Because then that prompts Mike Awesome stepping into an eventual feud with Goldberg. But Goldberg also has his eyes on Scott Steiner, which is one of the reasons why Goldberg chooses tradition, because he doesn't want a team with the WCW World Champion. But I also would not want Hulk Hogan in this, because in part one, you see where ChatGPT, and I agree, that Hulk Hogan at this point should be considered an attraction. Because people were burnt out on Hulk Hogan. People were burnt out on Ric Flair in the main event. People were not burnt out on Goldberg because Goldberg got injured. People were not burnt out on DDP because DDP finally got into the main event last year and it wasn't an extended look. It wasn't an extended look. It was just DDP in and then out. By now, Macho Man's gone. Macho Man's out of the picture. Pretty much, Kevin Nash is not factored into this thus far. But also, I agree Booker T should get the victory because Booker T is the one clear-cut babyface. Scotty Steiner's already the world champion, so he doesn't need it. Jeff Jarrett is better when he can bend the facts and be the heel, so you want the guy that the audience can get behind, like Booker, to be the one that gets the victory, because then that gives the audience a reason to get behind him even more. It's the biggest victory of his career against Ric Flair, and it also plays into the interaction that he had with Sting, where Sting says, "You already belong here, stop asking permission." At the end of the match, Flair shakes his hands afterwards. That image becomes symbolic. WCW passing the torch with dignity. Starrcade 2000 is the payoff, the conclusion, not another completed transition. Scott Steiner versus Booker T for the World Heavyweight Championship. Not because Booker is young, but because Booker earned it all year long. Sting publicly endorses Booker. Booker and Steiner have opposing viewpoints and opposing ideals and how they see the future of WCW. Booker defeats Steiner clean. Confetti, the locker room empties. No swerves, no heel turns. Again, no Russo nonsense. No Crash TV. An actual match. Sort of like what you saw on March 26, 2001, when Booker fought Steiner out in the last Nitro. And for once, Starrcade ends with a babyface winning, no nonsensical finish, no craziness, a clear-cut finish, a clear identity established for 2001, a star is made, a clear future, a respected legacy. That is the moment that Turner executives finally see WCW can finally survive beyond Hogan and Flair. Not a guaranteed success, but a chance. Because it fixes WCW's actual problem, constant chaos. Stable, creative structure. No new stars, year-long evaluation process. Veterans dominating, or not year-long, but long enough. Veterans mentoring transition. Russo's Crash TV sports-based identity. No roster hierarchy, ratings, rankings, and earned opportunities. Audience confusion, clear company philosophy. Turner distrust, realistic, measurable goals. WCW in 2000 did not need a revolution. It needed discipline. Fans were willing to accept the new stars on the other side. The Rock, Kurt Angle, Triple H, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit proved audience would embrace his fresh talent. But WCW tried to replace legends overnight instead of creating succession. The legends validate the future instead of fighting it. That is how WCW could have realistically reached 2001 with momentum instead of collapsing. I completely agree. I completely agree that. Let's go here. I completely agree that this does provide a stable idea where instead of moving Billy Kidman, for example, out of the Cruiserweight division, out of a faction with Rey Mysterio, Conan, Disco Inferno, and Eddie Guerrero, and um, you know, just the mid card into a feud with the biggest star in the company, Hulk Hogan, you build something out of it. You give the title to Scotty Steiner. I'm not saying that Jeff Jarrett could not have been world champion. It's just that they were afraid. It just seems like WCW was afraid to commit because there was no clear direction. Because they weren't sure what the clear direction should be. But I do think that the sight of Booker beating Steiner 3 months earlier, I'm not saying that this would have helped keep WCW afloat. I'm not saying that this would have changed the future. I'm just saying that this may have taken enough water off the Titanic to prolong things a little bit longer. That this would have given the opportunity to where maybe Bischoff and Fuchsia Media would have been able to purchase the company and keep WCW together. Because it would have given Turner Broadcasting the idea that maybe WCW could have been saved if it had a clear direction, if it had an opportunity to say, this is the future, this is what we're doing, this is the plan, and stuck to it. But this is Monday morning quarterbacking. This is from the idea of both a fan and an AI service. If you want to see more things like this, let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoy this. And if you also want to see more ideas, give me ideas that you would want to see me put through ChatGPT. Otherwise, we'll see what happens next. Because there's other things I could put, there's plenty of ideas I could put through ChatGPT to see what they could come up with, to see if it's better than what we actually got in our timeline. But do you think this prolongs WCW? Do you think that this got enough water off the Titanic to help alleviate the problems? Do you think ChatGPT covered everything here? Let me know. But either way, I will see you in the next one.